We're going to discuss now how to play through changes, and I'm going to take 2 chord progressions because the simplicity of that is that you're either on the chord that you're on or it's the chord that's coming up. And in actuality, no matter how complex the chord progression is that you're playing through, that's the bare essence of it. You have to think about the chord that's coming up, not just the one that you're on. That keeps you ahead of the game. One of the biggest challenges, it seems, is for guitar players to break out of the blues, rock bag, and the modal bag where they don't have chord changes, and to be able to execute efficiently the scale navigation on the neck and to understand what your strong and weak tones are and to be playing in a seamless fashion instead of riffing, waiting for the chord change, and riffing. Hopefully what I'm going to present to you will help you utilize these different scale forms. The most common approach would be for people to move their hand to accommodate the chord change. If the only chord form you knew, for example, was your C form, there's our C chord. Let's have a jam track here and give a listen. All right, we're presented with this, and we have to solo over it or come up with rhythm guitar fills. It's really all the same thing as far as I'm concerned. You have 2 chords, an E chord and a D chord. If you use the same form, it'd be... And there's nothing intrinsically wrong with approaching it this way, but there's more to learn. If I stay with the same form, the upside of that is that if I have fills and things that I recognize from the associated pentatonic, I can simply move them. And again, that's a valid approach. Let's review. We have the C form of an E chord, 5th string root with your pinky. Your 5th string root pentatonic is the associated pentatonic scale on top of that. And if we just move that down 2 frets to accommodate the D, we're in business. I'll play against it, playing rhythm guitar type things, little fills, not so much lead. E. And that works great. If you're soloing over that, if you use this approach of just moving with one scale form, you are obliged to move to accommodate the chord change. Now, I don't like to be bound up. I want to be free to approach it however I need to. Look at the limitations of this, and I'll show you the pitfalls. I'm going to play lead over this. Pretty soon, your fingers do the walking. What I mean by that is, you get a lick that's going on for the E chord, then the chord changes, you say, whoops, I got to shift positions to accommodate the chord, so you move down. All right, that seems all well and fine. But you end up not having enough time to think of something new, and you play the same physical lick, and the next thing you know, you're just playing some boring stuff. Well, one way to bust out of that rut is to force yourself to stay in the same position and use different scale forms and chord forms to lay the information out. We have an E chord, and instead of moving down 2 frets for the D chord, I could stay in the same place and play a D chord. Now, how would I know what form it is? Well, look at where the roots are. I have a D right there on the 5th string. I only have 2 chord forms out of that CAGED system that have 5th string root, the C form and the A form. Look what this does for me. I have the E chord right here and then the D chord right there. Now you might say, well, why do I want to do that? Well, when you start putting licks in and soloing, it just organizes the information a little better. Rhythm-wise, you might not see a big difference. But if we look at the associated pentatonics, now we can play them in the same place. Do you hear how I'm not riffing, and it doesn't sound like I'm playing the same lick, the same, architecture of the lick, because I see the scales in the same place. This also allows me to see common tones. Very important lead principle here. If I look at the E major pentatonic scale and the D major pentatonic scale is in the same place, they both have the B note. They both have the F sharp note. They both have the E note. Well, that's a very important tool for soloing. And I know this lesson was more about the CAGED system, but you can see how it lends itself to your soloing skills. All right, now that's the E and the D in that position. Let's talk briefly about how you could move that to other positions. We have covered 5 different pentatonic scales and their associated chord forms. And actually, I need to correct myself. I did not give you the pentatonic scale for the D form. Let me do that right now. My apologies. I'm just winging this off the top of my head, so you know how it goes. Let's go to this particular chord. You have the E, that's the C form, the A form, the G form, the E form, and then here was your D form. The pentatonic scale that's always associated with the D form is what I call the second string root pentatonic. It's the only one that has an extension. So low to high would be 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, extend 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 3. Again, these are all charted out. You can see the color coding, how they all link together. I'm playing through E to D. There are 5 areas that I could see block scale forms and chord forms to accommodate this progression. In the next segment, I'm going to go through these in depth, but briefly I'm just going to show them to you. I'll play against the track on the outro of this segment. We'll talk all about that in the next segment.